stay fly.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to Mouthin Now, another episode of Mouthin Now. I am your host, Adrian Nyce, and we are here with
Legrand. What's up, world? What's good with y'all?
Legrand in the building,
Yes, sir.
visiting us from his overseas tour. He stopped with little old me, little old Mouthin.
Don't do that. Y'all doing it big. I'm coming to see y'all. You know what I mean?
What's up, man? How you feeling?
Hey, God is good, man. I'm feeling really good right now. I ain't got no complaints to things moving forward. You know, just keeping grinding. That's all.
Let me tell you about this guy, man. We had a chance to connect a while back.
Facts.
You were in my movie, weren't you?
Yes.
You was in my movie, Charlotte Bound. That was like
Gotta
my
check that
big
out.
thing coming out of film school. It was like a 45-minute film. He played the part. I think he was the record label head that the underdog record label that people wasn't expecting to be about his shit, but he was about his shit.
My acting career was shorter than KRS-One's and Who's the Man, but no, it was a nice cameo though. It was a good time. We had a good group of heads too. It was a real positive joint. Appreciated it.
Let's start off with your name, man.
Yeah.
Where does your name come from? What's the meaning behind it?
Yeah, so Legrand, obviously, he's been with me for a long time, and it just started with like a combination of like being able to speak Spanish and different languages, but it just kind of came together, and I looked it up. Like Legrand has some, I forget the origin of the word, but it's like able to do big things, right? Like it's kind of conceptually means like being able to do big things. So I just put the two and two together and was like, all right, I'm gonna go by Legrand, and it fit. And that's funny that you mentioned that because there's a lot of artists out there now that have Legrand, like they call themselves Legrand, they spell it differently and stuff like that, but they obviously didn't do their research.
You the
Because
pioneer.
they've been doing this for a minute, so I mean, we got bigger things to do.
Sure,
like,
it's trademark.
We got bigger things to do to support the platform, but that obviously will need to get addressed.
For sure. Y'all not gonna go very far, but
Yeah, you do know that.
So your intro to music, how old were you and how did it come about?
Oh my God.
Bring us back.
So like I think my first introduction. So I'm originally from Philly, and in Philly they had back in the day they had like an AM station that played a lot of hip hop. So between growing up in Philly, listening to that AM station, people know Lady B, like a pioneer of hip hop. And I used to spend my summers in the Bronx, New York, with my people. So, like between the exposure to hip hop and breakdancing in the Bronx, and then the Philly playing the hip hop, that was like the introduction to it. But even where I was from, I had DJs and MCs. I DJ'd a little bit I went to the whole the whole phase. Yeah, like my graffiti game was trash though, but. But like, B-boy was
Everything.
I was all right, but the DJing and then just got to the point where I had to pick up the mic and it's been that way.
And all those things are involved with hip hop. You know what I'm saying? You got the B-boy, you got the graffiti art, you got the DJing.
Yeah, I think
elements of
hip hop. I don't know. I mean, and I'm not trying to start controversy. I just think that if you're a hip hop artist and you don't have to do all that, but you got to understand it, foundationally what the culture is built on. And as long as you're contributing to that, I'm not saying you have to continue to do that, but as long as you're contributing to that culture, you're good. If it's the culture vultures that take little pieces of it.
Do you think there's a huge gap in today's era of music with that understanding? I guess the background of hip hop or understanding, all of those things.
Well, let's look at it. I mean, it's been like almost 50 years. So,
For sure.
like a lot of the, hip hop it's been out a long time. So there's generations, depending on how it was passed down or exposed, people been exposed to it. Yeah, I think there's a little bit of a gap. I don't think there's a connection to what it was intended to be for.
For sure.
And I say that because of all the, like the gang violence and stuff that's going on. Like if they really understood the intent of hip hop, it would be to counter that, like to not be doing that. You know what I'm saying?
So whose fault is it? Is it? Let me hear. Is it the older guys' fault because they're not necessarily teaching the younger people, or is it the younger people's fault for not doing their research and wanting a deep dive, or is it anybody's fault?
When I look at it, the way I can answer it is it's a cultural thing, right? Mm-hmm. So if you're black, if you're Puerto Rican, you're African, it's what you teach your household about your culture, what you expose them to. And so if you get to the point where you, as an adult, or you're raising your kids and you don't expose them to hip hop, it's just like anything else, sex ed or anything else. They're going to find it somewhere else. They're going to find it somewhere else. Yeah. And that's going to be their way of understanding it. So I wouldn't put the blame on anything any more than why racism still exists, or why, like it's just that everybody has a responsibility to present the culture to in their household. Let's start there, like in their household. So if that's not happening, and there's homes that are broken and stuff like that, that could be part of it. But if you don't have that responsibility, I look at it, this climate platform, that's not something that was important to me, let's say, growing up. But now that it's something I want to pass that legacy on to my kids, and they have a different world to live in, I feel like I have a responsibility to make.
What do you mean by climate platform?
So my platform, for those that don't know, like if you go to legrandescape.com, essentially what we're about is climate action. I call myself a climate activist, but somebody can see that as climate advocate. But it's about educating people that look like us about the importance of counteracting climate change, whether that's conservation, or whether that's planting a tree, or driving an EV,
a Tesla,
or driving an EV. It don't have to be a Tesla.
I know,
but driving an EV. But
for sure,
like there's things that we can do, and I think one of the things that energizes me about the platform is that. So you talk about Tesla. So I would go to the Tesla charging station, and it'd be nothing but people that look like us.
Really?
But the way it's presented is that we don't care about the environment. And I'm like, well, everybody ain't driving these Teslas to be fly. You know what I mean?
That's a fact.
So I feel like that we have like just as much skin in the game about the climate, and I'm just trying to reach out to folks and either educate or give them a platform to talk about it, and do like we just talked about, like give back and get people to understand it's important that they have a role to play.
What's your website? If they want to,
legrandescape.com.
Legrand, can you spell it real quick?
Legrandescape.com.
How do you feel about? I don't know if you saw this, but did you see where Fat Joe, he was talking about how Hispanic people have contributed just as much to, I guess, starting hip hop, elevating hip hop as the black culture. It's not just the black culture. Brown people have had just as much. Do you agree, disagree? Seen a lot of people disagreeing.
I'm so glad you threw me this question. So people are going to say you're biased as an Afro-Latino. They're going to say you're biased. But as somebody who, like we talked about, getting exposure to hip-hop in the Bronx and stuff like that, like it was not people that just were black people. There were Latinos, Cubanos, like mostly Boricuas. I'll definitely say that Puerto Ricans have just as much stake in the foundation of hip hop as anybody. Anybody can claim.
Talk about it.
You know what I'm saying? Like anybody, and debate me on that. Come at me with that. But I can tell you, and it's making this rounds across social media, and I'm getting the facts out there. But if there's somebody out there that's talking about like they don't want to give Boricuas credit for their contribution to hip hop, you need to go sit down somewhere.
Facts. And for those of you who are watching this interview, what do you guys think? Do you agree with what he's saying? Just leave a comment, whatever. If you don't agree, give us your opinion, et cetera, et cetera. Thanks. Okay. I agree too. I'm sure it couldn't have just been black people. You know what I'm saying?
I mean,
it don't make sense.
Look at the community.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I'm saying? It's like trying to say that Egyptians didn't look like black people. It's like think about where the original.
Okay.
You think about the origin.
He's about to go deep.
I'm gonna fall back. Make it make sense. That's all I'm saying. make sense.
Okay, so right now you're on tour, or just got off a tour? Or?
No, I'm heading to Japan next week. So we got a couple shows out there. So the Kansai Music Conference is a music conference that I went to several years ago, kind of in its infancy, but it's grown a lot. And it was a little, it was under some jeopardy because of COVID, and they didn't think they were going to have it. So I thought it was going to be virtual, but I committed to going back because I had a good time when I was over there before. And this was a platform again, and part of their theme is like sustainable, sustainability. Mm-hmm. And so when I heard that, I was like, okay, that's right up my alley. That lines up to the platform, so let's go. And I hadn't been there. So when I had gone there before, when you guys understand the metaverse,
oh yeah,
what I was doing then was working with Temple University Japan students, creating an avatar in Second Life. And if you think about Second Life, was like the precursor to the metaverse. So I had already done like shows virtually in the metaverse through this project. So it was an opportunity to collaborate, and now I get a chance to come back. So I'm there in Tokyo for a couple of days, and then I'm in Osaka for 3 or 4 days, and then I'm coming back. So it's like bang, bang, bang.
Where were you before today, or were you anywhere?
No, I was I just did a gig in North Myrtle Beach last weekend. But,
Gotcha. Yeah. Dang. Yeah. Have you been overseas performed before?
Yeah, I've been. I performed in London. I think that was my second album. I was over there for almost like a month in the UK, and like weird places like Canterbury and Coventry, like where you would think there.
Hey, look, we ain't
it's
never
not
been
really.
over there.
No, but I'm just
you
saying,
know
like weird places, like you think you rock at Stonehenge or something. But it's. But yeah, no, I've been. And then I've been like Brazil and different places too. But Japan and London were like the biggest spots.
Let's talk about the rise of Legrand. So when did you, I guess, officially get into music? Like you're in the studio recording,
like professionally recording. Well, you got to give. I got to give shouts to the Gumbo crew, Gifted Universal Music, being organized. That was the foundation. A bunch of MCs and producers from where we're from, and where we're from is essentially where Corrupt from the Dog Pound is from. He's got a street named after him there, and like that's kind of what you did. Like you were great in sports. You might have been in the game. Or you did music, and so we did music, and I want to say like '98 was like our first album, 48 hours, and it took us 48 hours to get it done in the studio. Yeah, but we were ready. He had already been recording stuff like to tape and different stuff, and this was an opportunity to go in a real studio and put something together, and that was like the launching part of it. Like out of that collective of MCs and rappers and stuff, we branched off and did different things, but collectively we were able to do things like Showtime at the Apollo, opening up for Busta Rhymes and different things. So yeah, at that time, I mean, we were doing like for Philly artists, independent, we were doing our thing. Like, so you figure you're doing like 2 rehearsals a week, two studio sessions a week, and then like 2 gigs a week. Like it was bang, bang, bang for like a year.
And it was just y'all didn't have like a manager or like a booking agent trying to help y'all?
Went to the
wow.
No, we just did it to the muscle.
That's fire, man.
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot of work when you do it yourself,
of course.
but it's a lot. Like again, when we had about 30. Too. Yeah, we had like it was like a dozen of us. Like,
got you.
So like if everybody's playing their part, like each person is bringing in venues, and it's easier to spread. Kind of like Wu-Tang, like Wu-Tang Clan did, but just a little bit different. But no, so that's what started, and then we did a couple albums as Gumbo, and then as time went on, I was still in the studio, had some opportunities to do some solo projects. One being the Professional, which led me to the Japan opportunity.
Wait, so when you started, I guess you would say going solo, or just when these solo opportunities were arising, was the group still together, or was it not? And then if it was, which you're shaking your head, yes, how's everybody else feeling that you are doing your own thing?
Oh,
Or was
no,
everybody else doing their own thing?
Yeah,
too?
listen, it's gonna accrue for life. Like it's always been that.
Okay.
And you know, every group has its ups and downs, but for the most part, it's always been love. They've done solo projects or they've done separate projects without me, and I've done projects without them. So it's always been love, and from the start, it's like we all at the end of the day, we all love what we're doing.
Facts.
And we all support each other. So.
And I'm glad you're older. Like older as in you've been in the rap game or entertainment game long. Because then I can ask you questions like, was it easier to make more money back then, or is it easier to make money now?
Oh, it was easier to make money back then because you know, products or services, like you didn't have so many hands in it. I think the digital stream. So like, you know, I've got stuff streaming right now, but you got to stream 1 million to make a couple grand. I could do a show. Yeah. I could do a show, right? I could do a show and make $1 grand, and never have to stream anything. So to be honest, I don't think anybody is really making money unless they're a huge artist.
Got you.
Or the labels. Like the labels that are basically putting insurance, putting insurance plans on their artists.
Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. So look, I got this segment called "What the Fuck Is Going On."
Okay.
What the fuck is going on?
Facts.
We have these labels taking life insurance out on these artists.
Yep.
How do you feel about that? And then I'm a propose a theory after I get your opinion on it.
I mean, first of all, it's disrespectful. So I can tell you how I feel about labels personally is I think that what's been going is it's not a business anymore. Because if you're a businessman, and I'm saying this as somebody that owns as a CEO of my own company, like you got to make business decisions and you got to be comfortable failing. Like you got to believe in something and you got to put money behind it. And fail or win, that's to me, that's what a businessman is.
Facts.
Not you trying to stack it up where I'm going to put a little money behind him, and if he or she gets killed, I'm going to make money off a life insurance policy.
And it's not like that. It's not like that with like a business venture anyways. Like if you're investing in a startup or whatever,
it's just
disrespect.
It's disrespectful to the culture. It's disrespectful to the artist. And it really is disrespectful for you to call yourself a business person if you're running your business like that.
Now, let me ask you this. I'm going to propose a theory.
Yeah.
Okay. So we got these big corporate labels, right? We got these roster artists. We sign them. We got life insurance on all of them, right?
Okay.
So, boom. Now, this one artist isn't necessarily popping as he should, so we shelving him. But we have invested this money into him, so we can't let him go. Do you think that they potentially could be putting hits out on these artists to collect the life insurance on them so they recoup back what they have invested on them?
So again,
that's
I'm not
crazy.
even going to co-sign or argue. I'm just going to say that if you get a life insurance, I mean, just whether you have a business or a label or your own household, when you get a life insurance policy, right? If the demise happens to that person, you get paid.
Yeah.
And so I'll leave it at that because I don't want nobody coming at me. But make it make sense. Like,
so if you are an artist and you know, okay, yeah, you about to sign this contract to a label and you happen to see a clause like that, we got this life insurance, blase, blase. How do you say you don't want that in there? How would you go about, I guess, talking about it? Just be like,
tell your lawyer to take it out. You tell your lawyer to take it out or negotiate for something. But
yeah, I was about to say,
at the end of the day, like that's to me that would be, I've been in the game a little bit, but to me that would be a sign. And shame on the attorney, the lawyer for not calling that out and being like, if I want what's best for you as an artist, you need to take that out, or I need some clauses to understand what does that mean.
Definitely a lot of backdoor deals going in too.
Fact. And I'm like, listen. You make the decisions that you make, right? You make the decisions that you make. So if you're an artist, What you accept is what you accept. If you're in a relationship with somebody, what you accept from that person is what you accept.
For sure.
But at some point, you got to be thinking about yourself, which is another whole part of this conversation about going into the industry. You need to go into the industry just like you go into any other job and be thinking about what's your exit strategy, what retirement and that type of thing. Like you got to go into it thinking about it. So, the decisions you make is the decisions you make. But yeah, lawyers should be doing a better job and guiding these folks. But in a lot of cases, it's just like public defenders. They work with the labels to help the label
Exactly.
out. So, the whole thing's going on.
We got a comment. We got some input from our audience over here. What you want to say, bro?
I just want to say, I don't know if this is accurate. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I've heard from multiple people that somebody could put an insurance policy on you without you even knowing or agreeing to it.
Is that possible?
Now that I don't know because I'm not.
I could be wrong, but I've heard that all they need is your name, your birth, your date of birth,
I mean,
possibly your social.
You probably
without you signing on it, that's crazy.
I mean, you probably could. Yeah, I wouldn't put it past. Again, because I don't know what the controls are for getting life insurance. I got life insurance. I mean, obviously, but like I don't know I don't know how. Well, some of it is through my job, and some of it is separate. But like at the end of the day, you want to have life insurance, just like you want to have car insurance. But it's all like. I don't want to say it's a scam, but it's all a revenue driver for the person who.
For sure, you're paying so much each month for the potential that this could happen.
Yeah.
But over your lifespan, nothing happens.
Facts.
Yeah, but then again, if you
the
don't
problem-
have it,
hold on, he brought up a good point. So if you try to wait, so that's a good point you brought this up. So if you try to wait until you're older to get life insurance. No, because there's so much risk. You could have high blood pressure or diabetes. They could deny you.
damn.
So see what I'm saying? The game is fixed, bro. Like you got to get in. Yeah, like you got to get in. So
Then if you don't got it,
that's a
your
great
family's
question,
raising GoFundMe's and shit like that.
That's when you might, if you're gonna do it big. Get the $1 million plan. Pay $300 a month, $400 a month. It's not a lot of money.
Which is a good point. If you get in early though, so if you're like 21 and you get a life insurance policy and you can afford to do the 200 and grow it to $1 million by the time you're 50 or 60, you should definitely do that. But you definitely gotta do it while you're healthy. I think there's some other plans out there where if you're not as healthy, but that's the main thing is that you want to be healthy when you get life insurance because it'll be cheaper.
So the next thing I want to talk about is my man Kanye West.
Okay.
So as you know, he was recently with Adidas, and he launched all of his sneakers through Adidas, et cetera, et cetera. Yep. So boom, he's no longer with Adidas now. He's with Gap.
Yep.
Okay. So now you got celebrities, or there's this whole thing about because he's been ranting because Adidas basically stealing his
designs,
basically. Yes.
Yep.
So they got Swiss Beats, you got T.I., you got Puff Daddy saying, we boycotting Adidas. Are we boycotting Adidas? Are people going to fall in line? Or do you think they still going to rock Adidas?
So I'll say it this way. I'm an activist. So I'm all about boycotting. I'm all about taking it to the 10th. To the man. I'll burn my shell toes if I have to. But your question about how I think people are going to respond.
Yeah.
So I'll use the example of the NFL. So I have a family member that was in the NFL at the time, and when the boycott came up, I had a conversation with that individual and said, listen, I'm not trying to take food off your table, but for me and my family, what the NFL represents, I'm going to boycott. I love you, boom, 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 right? Not everybody's going to do that. Everybody's going to be like, what, give up football? You out your mind.
I mean, but they get paid anyways, regardless, no? Because of the contracts, et cetera? Even if people are watching or not?
But this is a family member where, like, y'all, you normally watch football together, and I'm like getting rid of DirecTV and everything. So I'm naked on football for like 3 years.
Yeah.
So, but everybody doesn't take that stance. Like, some people are like, are you crazy? If I give it up, 8 million other people ain't gonna give it up. But I feel like you got to stand for something, man. And I got I got to look at my kids in the face And they like, well, how you talking about it at the dinner table, but you watching the football game on Sunday?
Yeah.
Like I can't be that
gotta
type
stand
of.
on it.
Yeah, you gotta stand on it. So I think that Adidas wasn't really. This is my opinion. I don't think Adidas was really loving us too much like that since back like Running D obviously made them a significant fortune. But I think that there's a lot of people that'll follow Kanye through a burning bush.
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily one of them, but I think that what he's standing up for himself. Yeah, I could support him on that.
For sure.
Yeah.
Creative.
Yeah.
Designs,
so if you see me in my
all
3-stripe Adidas, call me out on it.
Exactly. We boycotting Adidas, everybody. Boycotting. So music. So when you go to Japan, you're performing and everything, right?
Yeah.
What music are you performing? Do you have new music out, or is it old music you've released in the past?
No.
Like
So it's interesting. It's interesting because I've got like 30 minute, 45-minute sets. So I've been approaching it more like TED Talks.
45-minute sets?
Yeah. So
God damn.
so like they're like 30, 45-minute sets. So I'm approaching it almost like TED Talks to music, right? So it's like, all right, I've been here. I was here before, getting reacquainted. I obviously will do the music that I did in Japanese, collaborating with them. And then I'll introduce them.
You going to do it in Japanese?
Oh
my God. Man of many languages. Dang. Well-cultured individual.
But if you check out the Virtual Love video that's on YouTube, that was the collaboration, like the Second Life collaboration. So that's out there. Like I didn't do the whole thing in Japanese, but there's parts of the verses that are in Japanese.
Gotcha, yeah.
So I'm gonna expose them to that. I'm gonna expose them to some of the lyrics that I have in Spanish and stuff like that too. But it's really like a set. So I'm taking them from the beginning, representing where I'm from, talking about like some of the stuff I did when I was in Japan before, then getting into the new stuff, and then at the end, I'm actually doing like a precursor for some of the stuff I'm releasing over the holidays, like over the Christmas holiday. So like I got a joint called Santa Ain't Coming, you know what I mean? I got like a holiday freestyle I'm gonna introduce them to. So like, that's kind of like the programming for the set. Yeah.
Let me ask you this. So okay, you mentioned the word culture vulture. Culture vulture. What in your opinion is a culture vulture? And then I'll go to my question.
I think it's people that cherry pick parts of the culture and exploit it for money, but don't really
give back.
It's not so much they don't give back, but they don't embrace the whole culture. Because I think like hip hop is a culture. It's a whole thing. Like you can't just pick and choose the stuff that you want to do, and then you don't recognize the people that have contributed to it. And so it's really somebody that's just grabbing what they like, raping it for a whole bunch of money, and not contributing to the culture.
So how do you feel about K-pop?
Listen, at the end of the day, it's
it's
their music.
Culture,
So when I look at international artists, like if we're talking about hip hop in America, it's different. It's different, right? So the way it came to them, and they interpreted it is how they got K-pop. Now, if somebody is strategically going to the States, grabbing hip hop music and just
whether they're going to the States or seeing it on TV or the internet,
like if they're just completely imitating it and not I don't follow K-pop like that.
I don't either,
but K-pop, J-pop, it's the same thing. But see, it's interesting because like Japanese hip hop, like is official. But it's still, they have made it their own, but they understand that like it's not too many teams beating Japanese or Chinese b-boys. Like they're just not doing it. Sure. It's not happening. It's not happening. So they got the foundation and they're taking the foundation and making it their own.
There has to be some understanding of. I got you.
That's different. But if you're literally just watching the TV and saying I'm going to do that and then just doing it in the Korean language, that's not what it is.
So that's K-pop, right? So how do you feel about Americans? Well, I guess the Asian community was getting on as an example, Ariana Grande, because she was doing things to, I guess her appearance to make her seem more Asian-esque and stuff like that. Now, is that so she don't get a pass?
Hell no.
But can't we give it a pass to the K-pop people?
No,
Okay.
let's see. But
what's the difference?
So if Ariana Grande is, I mean, she grew up in the States. She's had hip hop artists on songs, and so like, for you to change your appearance to, let me say it this way: if that was a request of people in Asia, that's different.
Oh,
but if I made
she's
the
doing to get more
assumption-
sales, basically.
What I'm saying, but if I made an assumption that is what the Asian people want to see, and I came over dressed like that, that's a problem. That's a to me that's a problem. Like that's like literally like, all right, I'm gonna go on tour in Mexico, so I'm assuming that they want me to dress a certain way and wear a hat and have mariachi and dress in mariachi. Like that's disrespectful, yo. But if they said, look, the gig requires you to wear a mariachi suit, that's different.
She's just doing it. She's just doing it in the States. She's just doing it for a
well, she got for Asian, I ain't gonna
more
hold
Asian
her.
sales, etc.
I ain't gonna hold her. She got enough fans where they might have put a playlist together and said, look, we want you to dress like this. And she said, hey, this is 1.5 million fans. I gotta do it.
Yeah, I can see it. I can see that
ain't me. Like, I'm not there yet.
So okay, what's next for you? I mean, after the tour and everything like that, what are we doing?
Yeah, so again, it's always about the platform, right? So it's always about the climate action. So one of the things we're doing starting the end of October is a Comedians for Climate Action event. So starting in Atlanta, we'll have 2 shows, 4 comedians, hosted by Teray, who is extremely funny out of Philly. So we'll do the 2 shows that night, and that'll be the kind of like kickoff to a tour. Like I'm gonna take that on tour and just kind of visit a couple different cities and do the same platform, like comedians, me or other artists performing, and just kind of get the word out about climate action. And the kin is that you don't just have a good time, that you go out, you support something, you go out, plant a tree, or you like there's some action behind it. That's what we're trying to do.
How do you feel about being in Atlanta versus like Fort Mill, Charlotte area?
So in full disclosure, I mean, like, I'm in North Atlanta, like I'm in a good area.
Okay.
So I ain't even gonna hold you. Like I'm in a good area.
But I guess pertaining to music market type stuff.
So I would say that obviously there's a lot more attention on music here. It's just the type of music. But I think that I look at Atlanta as it's pretty much the new LA, right? So like this is where you want to, like, instead of going to LA and dealing with blackouts and stuff like that, you come to Atlanta and try to get put on. I think that there's enough studio houses, there's enough movies being made, there's enough studios, there's enough attention. The only thing I would ask is, and maybe this RICO charges roundup is going to change things there, but like I would want to see a more diverse type of hip hop music being exposed. Like we've got underground, we've got pop, we've got like everything in between.
Well, you got
more of it.
Okay, so we got hip hop. I mean, I think we got like emo rap. Would that okay?
You got all that.
But we got the drill, we got the gangster rap. No,
you listen. It's there. I just feel like
when you say the verse,
you only see though, like it seems like you only see either the stripper culture, trap type of stuff.
That's definitely
right. I mean, and again, that makes sense.
Yeah,
that makes sense. That's the culture there.
For sure.
But like, I just feel like there's such a huge diversity of people that are in Atlanta now that they could definitely expose more than just that.
I agree.
That's there. People co-sign on that. That's official. But there's a lot of other talent there that I think is underrepresented.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So what we're gonna do before we go? I got a segment called One Piece of Advice. Okay. So basically, I'm going to ask you to give one piece of advice to, it could be a group of people, it could be an animate object, it could be anything. You're going to give one piece of advice to that thing once I ask.
Okay.
Okay? So first, Give one piece of advice to the people in Japan that are going to see you when you go over there.
Oh, one piece of advice. Just be open to, like, even if you don't understand the words, just like get into the show and the activity and like the transition. Like I talked about going from where I'm from to some of the stuff from the professional, and then it gets into what I call the international love section of it. And so, like, I'll do like a kind of like a love song in Hindi. I'll do different stuff in Spanish. And so, like, just be open to it, because, like, even if you don't know me, I'm sure that there's something that they'll like. Like,
sure.
You know what I mean? So you may not like the first song, you may not like the last song, but somewhere in the course of that performance, just be open to it, and you'll find something that you like.
Give one piece of advice to a new, I'm just going to say artist, getting into the game. One piece of advice to them.
Go into it with your exit strategy in mind, like knowing when it's got to a point where it's unacceptable, or knowing that, what the downside of your career piece is, like basically retiring. Like, you want to be able to retire. You don't want the label to cut you. You want to be able to walk off
on your own
run.
terms.
Yeah, on your own terms, which is very difficult to do. But obviously, if you plan it going in, and I wouldn't sign long contracts either.
For sure. And last but not least, give one piece of advice to 21-year-old you. Where was you? What was you doing? Give one piece of advice to that guy. What would you tell him?
I would tell him you should have never stopped. Like, so, there was a time earlier in my career where it's like, things were going well musically, but when you and I obviously don't have any regrets, but obviously I prioritize spending time with my children and my wife or whatever.
For sure.
So I would just say, though, there was time to do both, and I kind of just said, let me just focus on this. But I could have kept going. And people say, well, you never really stopped. But I think there was a point where I really kind of said, you know what, I'm gonna fall back.
And so, are you only saying that in hindsight, because like looking back, like, okay, I could have did a little more, or I didn't have to actually,
No, I think that there was evidence at a certain point that if I hadn't stopped, I probably wouldn't have to be doing it today. Gotcha. But I would have a different platform too. So anyone that knows me knows I'm very much into how God guides your life. So it's not from a position of regret, because obviously I wasn't ready for it at that time.
For sure.
So it happened the way it was supposed to. But yeah, it happened the way it was supposed to.
All right, man. Any last words before we get out of here, and then we'll end with like your social media and everything?
No. I really appreciate this opportunity, man, to get a chance to chop it up with you.
Yes,
I haven't seen you in a minute. And chop it up with all y'all out there. Hopefully y'all check out legrandescape.com.
Yes.
And just support something, whether you support the Japan tour and merchandise, or you come out and see me perform. I'm sure, like we said about the Japanese folks, hopefully there's something that you'll enjoy through the course of my stuff. So appreciate it.
All right, guys, please make sure you tap in with him, tap in with his music, tap in with his movement, tap in with everything that he has going on. I'm Adrian Nyce. This is Mouthin Out. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe.
Yes, do that.
We are out. Peace.
Ah! Tryna stay fly.